Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. This is a webinar on an overview of advanced home health aid law in New York. We appreciate your joining us today. I want to tell you at the outset that a copy of this presentation will be emailed to all of the registrants tomorrow, so you don't need to write furiously while you listen. Also, we will be posting a copy of this webinar to our YouTube site. My name is Eve Green Coopersmith, and I am a partner director here at Garfunkel Wild, and I am sitting here today with Sandra Jensen, who is one of my partners. Today we're going to start talking about the new advanced home health aid law in New York. This was a law that was passed some time ago in 2016, but it did not become effective until May 28th of this year. Of course, it is subject to legislation. We do need to have regulations promulgated by both the state education department, because we are creating a new type of practitioner in a way, and also the New York State Department of Health. The New York State Education Department published emergency regulations, which are effective now. The Department of Health chose the more traditional route of proposed regulations with a comment period. And so if any of you are interested in making a comment, I would encourage you to do so quickly, because the comment period will be expiring at the end of this month. And then, of course, the department has to, they may, of course, extend that, but then they'll publish their final regulations. And, of course, agencies won't be able to offer advanced home health aid services until these regulations are finalized. Training programs have to be approved, and, of course, the advanced aides would have to be appropriately certified. I do want to say right off the bat that the goal of this law is to enable more people to live at home and in community-based settings, and to provide support for family caregivers and their loved ones. And as we talk about this law, you'll see that the focus is very much on assisting individuals with medication. So let's talk a little bit about, first, who can serve as an advanced home health aide. And first, we're talking about someone who is a certified home health aide currently and listed on the New York State Department of Health Home Care Services Worker Registry. And in order to be an advanced aide, they have to be listed on the registry as having successfully obtained training and certification as an advanced home health aide. The criteria for who can be an advanced home health aide is, again, someone who is a certified home health aide, currently listed on the DOH Home Care Services Registry as a home health aide. So they have to already be on the Home Care Services Registry. They must have at least 1 year of experience in home care while working either as a home health aide, if they were working for AHHA, or providing personal care attendance services if they were working for AHHA. So it's 1 year of either or combined experience. They must complete training and demonstrate competency as an advanced home health aide. They must pass a written competency examination. The Department of Health and the State Education Department have agreed upon a written competency examination called the Medication Aid Certification Examination, which was created by the National Council for the State Boards for Nursing. As I said earlier, they must be listed on the DOH Home Care Services Worker Registry as having completed the training and passed the examination. That must be done before an advanced home health aide can hold themselves out as an advanced home health aide. And on an ongoing basis, once certified, an advanced home health aide must participate in at least 18 hours of in-service education per year. The Department of Health has proposed that this education include medication management, infection control, injection safety, and it must be supervised by a registered nurse. Generally speaking, you'll see that the types of advanced tasks that an advanced home health aide may perform are assisting patients with medication. And you'll see from this list that it's not just routine medications. It also includes assisting patients who have diabetes and may be dependent upon insulin with a subcutaneous shot of their diabetes medication, or an intramuscular injection of low molecular weight heparin. They can also use a pre-filled auto-injector of naloxone or epinephrine in an emergency. And the focus, again, of these regulations is not just to assist patients who are self-directing. This new law and the regulations are going to allow an advanced aide to assist patients and their families who may, as a result of memory issues or complexity of their medical condition, not be able to manage their medications on their own. And we're going to talk more at length about the types of tasks that an advanced home health aide may perform a little later in the program. This is just a sort of a brief overview here. So let's talk about the types of agencies that can offer advanced home health aide services. So the first is a home care services agency, and in this respect, it could be either a AHHA or a LICSA, a hospice program, and assisted living facilities that have that enhanced license to provide enhanced services. Advanced home health aides may not work in either a hospital setting, nursing home, clinic, or outpatient care setting. The agency, and by this I'm referring to any of the type of agencies I just mentioned, either a home health care agency, a hospice, or enhanced assisted living residence, in order to provide advanced home health aide services, they must employ both the registered nurse, who is going to be a supervising nurse, as well as the advanced home health aide. The agency must have written policies in effect that are going to cover the assignment and performance of advanced tasks. There has to be a process that's going to document the limitation and revocation of the assignment of advanced tasks. And we're going to talk more about how an assignment of advanced tasks is made. It's made by the registered nurse. And so it's going to be the registered nurse working at the agency that is going to both determine the competency of the advanced home health aide to perform the service, make the assignment, can limit the assignment, after the assignment is given, can revoke it, and there has to be a process in place to ensure that if there's a limitation or revocation of the assignment, that information is going to be available to other RNs at the agency that may be supervising the advanced home health aide. Agencies also must establish a systematic approach that addresses drug diversion in order for an advanced home health aide to be given tasks that include medication administration. And a systematic approach to address drug diversion really means that the agency has written policies and procedures to prevent drug diversion and address suspected incidents of drug diversion, which are periodically reviewed as part of the agency's quality assurance program. And then just to mention up at the top of the slide, in terms of documentation, that the advanced home health aide is in fact and does have the appropriate training and certification. We would recommend that for agencies that are going to provide these services, that the agency obtain a copy of the advanced home health aide certificate, which is going to be issued by the training program. So that should be part of their record to demonstrate that this person is in fact an aide. And the agency also should check the Department of Health Home Care Services Worker Registry to ensure that that person did in fact qualify and meet the training and criteria. So let's talk about the responsibilities of the registered nurse. And you'll see from these regulations that the registered nurse has a tremendous amount of responsibility here in both supervising and sort of implementing this program. Before assigning an advanced home health aide to perform advanced tasks, the first thing the nurse has to do is perform a comprehensive nursing assessment to ascertain the client's current healthcare status and care needs. It's the nurse who also determines the advanced tasks to be performed by an advanced home health aide based upon the complexity of the considered tasks, the skill and expertise of the advanced aide under the registered nurse's supervision, and the health status of the patient. The nurse has to also provide and train the advanced home health aide, provide specific training to perform these advanced tasks, which are going to be assigned, and verify that the aide can safely and competently perform the advanced task. Obviously, if the aide doesn't demonstrate appropriate competencies, then that is not a task that could be assigned to the advanced aide, and the nurse would have to perform that task him or herself. The nurse also has to provide written client-specific instructions for performing advanced tasks, which are consistent with the patient's plan of care and the criteria for identifying, reporting, and responding to problems, errors, or potential complications. The nurse also has to evaluate the patient's current medication use and prescribed drug regimen to identify and resolve any discrepancies. So, part of this and part of the proposed regulations from the Department of Health requires a comprehensive medication review, which includes both, as I said, the evaluation and review of the regulations. A registered nurse cannot assign advanced tasks to an advanced home health aide unless the client's health is stable. And stable health really means that the physiologic status is not in flux, or changes in health status that require emergency or immediate medical intervention are not expected or foreseeable. The advanced tasks have to be consistent with the plan of care that's been ordered by the physician or a nurse practitioner or other appropriate practitioner. The patient, the client, or their legal representative must consent to an advanced home health aide performing the advanced tasks. And if the client or the legal representative does not consent, then the advanced home health aide cannot be the one performing those tasks. And of course, the nurse, as I mentioned before about the written policies and procedures, this is actually one of the requirements that the nurse has to sort of check the box before they can even assign duties. They must check the box that the agency has the appropriate written policies and procedures that cover assignment and performance of advanced tasks, as well as the limitation and revocation of tasks. So the nurse, before, as I said before, assigning tasks, has to ensure that those policies are in place. There's also a part of these regulations that require that the advanced home health aide agree and agree to perform the services and demonstrate that competence. So again, before the tasks are assigned, the advanced home health aide must demonstrate competency and skill, and the appropriate level of skill to perform the necessary tasks. They must agree to perform the necessary tasks, and they must agree to document their performance of these tasks. And also, and notably, the advanced home health aide must be able to communicate effectively with the client and understand the client's needs. That's an important consideration, because it means that this is a higher level of service being provided to the patients, and that triggers other things as well to consider. And all of these things, as I mentioned on this slide, they all have to be confirmed by the supervising registered nurse. Let's talk about the level of supervision that a registered nurse must actually provide once the advanced tasks have been directed. That level is direct supervision. Direct supervision is defined in the regulations as the provision by a registered nurse of training, guidance, direction, and oversight relating to the performance of advanced tasks by an advanced home health aide, including a periodic assessment of the advanced aide's performance of advanced tasks. And the level of direct supervision is also determined by the registered nurse based upon the complexity of the advanced tasks and the health status of the patient. The supervising nurse has additional responsibilities regarding direct supervision, including being aware of the patient's current health status and healthcare needs and the individualized plan of care. The nurse is authorized to assign, revoke, and modify assigned tasks. So it's not the agency, it's the supervising nurse who is the one assigning and modifying those tasks. And the nurse must also consider the patient's needs and the case mix complexity and geographic considerations to ensure that the number of clients being served by the registered nurse is reasonable and prudent. And I wanted to give you a definition of case mix complexity, which is provided in the law, in the regulations. Case mix complexity and geographic considerations means the clinical complexity of the clients who are being served and the geographic distances that the registered nurse travels to supervise advanced home health aides providing services. So it's not just the current client needs, it's that client's needs in the context of all of the services being provided by that registered nurse and the distances that that registered nurse has to travel. In some areas, those distances might be great. Here, in the downstate area, you could have traffic concerns, or maybe it's easy to get to all of your clients. But for some of our upstate clients, the distances that may be traveled might be much greater. So all of this has to be considered and determined by the supervising nurse to be reasonable and prudent. Additional registered nurse responsibilities include that the registered nurse, while on duty, must be continuously available to speak with the advanced aide by telephone or other means appropriate. In addition to that, the regulations require that a registered nurse, it could be another registered nurse at the agency, must be available by telephone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to answer questions, and assist the advanced home health aide if need be. The supervising RN must perform a comprehensive initial assessment and regular and ongoing assessment of the patient's needs. The nurse must be available to visit a client receiving services as necessary to protect the health and safety of that person. So that could be, it's really on an as-needed basis. And it can be, by the way, it doesn't have to be the supervising nurse. That could be another nurse that visits the clients if necessary, on a day that the supervising nurse might not otherwise be working. The supervising nurse must personally visit the client or arrange for another qualified person to visit the client, as I said, as necessary. But it's also at least once every 2 weeks. The supervising nurse or another nurse must visit the client at least once every 2 weeks to personally observe and evaluate the advanced aide's performance of advanced services. More than one registered nurse who is employed by an agency may jointly agree to assign tasks to an advanced aide, but only one of the RNs determines the advanced aide's competence to perform those tasks. And only the supervising RN for a particular client is authorized to assign the tasks and revoke or limit an assigned advanced task. There are protections in the law for the registered nurse who performs these functions. The law expressly states that the supervising nurse retains the discretion to decide whether to assign advanced tasks and cannot be subject to coercion, retaliation, or threat of retaliation. So you can see that this is really an extension of nursing services. There are record-keeping requirements that are set forth in the law. The registered nurse must provide, as I said before, written client-specific instructions for the advanced home health aide, which are consistent with the patient's written plan of care and criteria to identify problems. The advanced home health aide must document the performance of advanced tasks in the client's individual service record or in the medical record. And the registered nurse must document the assignment of advanced tasks to each home health aide, advanced home health aide, and any modification or termination of assignment in the client's individualized service or care plan or health record. In addition, the agency may require that the advanced home health aide's agreement to perform the advanced tasks be in writing. For that, you might require that when the registered nurse provides those written client-specific instructions, one way to document the advanced aide's agreement is to have a section on those instructions that provides for the aide's signature to demonstrate their agreement to perform these tasks. And at minimum, the registered nurse should document also that the client or their legal representative has agreed to have advanced care services provided by an advanced home health aide. The agency should maintain a copy of the physician or nurse practitioner or other prescriber's order for the advanced task services. And for a hospice, the services must be ordered by a physician. So there's a little exception there. For an enhanced assisted living facility or home health care agency, it's any of the other types of providers or practitioners, but for a hospice, it must be ordered by a physician. So there are certain limits on an advanced home health aide. As we talked about before, advanced tasks may not be performed if the patient or the patient's representative refuses care. So that's a situation which could come up where after a client has agreed and now the services are being performed by the advanced home health aide, there could come a time where the client or their legal representative says, I don't like this, I don't want it, I don't want this anymore. And if that happens, the advanced home health aide cannot perform those services. And it would have to be done by the nurse at that point. An advanced home health aide can determine that he or she is unable to perform an advanced task, even if they've agreed to it and demonstrated competency. If after the fact they decide that they're unable to perform the task, they must notify the supervising registered nurse. And the law is very clear that these changes to the Nurse Practice Act are not meant in any way to limit the practice of nursing. An advanced home health aide is prohibited from assessing medication or the medical needs of an individual. This is not, they don't have the same skill set or authorities with respect to assessing a patient's medical condition. An advanced home health aide is prohibited from performing advanced tasks or activities which would be outside the scope of a licensed practical nurse, or any advanced tasks, frankly, that have not been assigned to them by the supervising RN. They're not permitted to just go ahead and do things because they think they can. It has to be something that is assigned by the RN. And finally, an advanced home health aide is prohibited from modifying an assignment or assigning or reassigning advanced tasks to any other individual. Okay, now we're going to move to let's get to the real meat of what an advanced home health aide can do. And for that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Sandy.
Excuse me. Thank you, Eve. For the next several slides, we'll go through what are permissible advanced tasks. And as Eve mentioned in the beginning, the focus is really on administration of medication, what the statute and regulations refer to as routine medications. They include the subcutaneous or intramuscular injection of low molecular weight heparin or medication to treat diabetes, use of pre-filled auto-injector, naloxone or epinephrine in an emergency. And also there's other tasks that are included in a draft matrix of permissible and non-permissible activities. And we'll go into that in detail. So what are routine medications? It's defined as medications that are pre-filled or otherwise packaged in a manner that promotes ease of administration, routinely administered to a client with stable health, and that seems to be a theme among all the requirements, that the client must be in stable health. And they're administered only by the following routes of administration. So oral or taken through the mouth, sublingual, where you place it under the tongue, buccal, so the drug is placed between your gums and cheek, cream, ointments, or liquids placed in the eye, and the ear, otic, nasal, rectal, vaginal, topical, or inhaled through the nose or mouth. Now, additional tasks are outlined in a draft matrix of permissible and non-permissible activities for home health aid services that was issued by DOH, and the website is indicated on the slides. And again, you'll have access to the slides and the webinar after this. So how did the matrix come about? There was a work group formed by the Department of Health, the Advanced Home Health Aides Advisory Work Group, prior to enactment of the new law, and the guidance was intended to form a basis or provide guidance or instruction on regulations that would be developed later on, or what the general consensus amongst stakeholders was regarding what advanced tasks would be appropriate for an advanced aid. So the work group had a variety of stakeholders, including the Nurses Association, the Home Care Association, the Hospice and Palliative Care Association, as well as the state agencies like DOH, that was basically in charge of it. OPWDD was also on the work group. And SED, State Education Department participated. They were there, but the draft matrix itself notes that the Education Department hasn't endorsed it. Basically, it came out before their regulations. So we have to look at both and make sure that there's no conflict, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. So the draft matrix, what they did was, there was currently, and there is in effect, the matrix of permissible and non-permissible activities. And it had 3 columns. That there's a copy of a page on the slide. It's probably hard to read, but I'll explain it. So one column was on permissible home health aid activities. The second was on permissible activities under special circumstances. So that allowed certain tasks which are not routinely taught in home health aid training programs to be provided by home health aides to self-directing individuals, as long as they were trained in the specific task to be assigned. And then the third column is on non-permissible home health aid activities. So what the work group did was added a 4th column for permissible advanced home health aid activities. And this is not restricted based on whether an individual is or is not self-directing. And instead, the focus is on whether the supervising RN believes that the advanced home health aide is competent to perform the task. So the draft matrix is broken down into various areas, including preparing meals, administration of medications, providing skin care, using medical equipment, supplies, and devices, changing of dressings, performing simple measurements and tests, performing a maintenance exercise program, and caring for an ostomy. So we'll take each topic one by one. With respect to preparing meals, advanced tasks could include adding oral medications and food, and also storing and reporting on mixing solutions for total parenteral nutrition. However, with respect to TPN, they cannot participate in any activities related to this other than storing and reporting on mixing solutions. In the topic area of administration of routine medication, with respect to oral medications, they can remove the proper amount of medication from the container and put or spray or spoon prescription or non-prescription medication in patient's mouth, both pre-measured and not pre-measured. They're also allowed to administer intraoral, nasal, and ocular medications. And again, this is removing the proper amount from the container and administering it, either apply, spray, and it could be both prescription and non-prescription.
And that's where it was a difference, because in the past they could not, you could open containers, but they couldn't remove medication that wasn't already, you know, available. They couldn't measure anything. Right.
I mean, I think, you know, the definite benefit to this or expansion here is with respect to medication and being able to administer medication. And it also includes applying prescription or non-prescription topical medications on stable skin surfaces. Continuing on this topic, they can administer injectable medication, and it includes cleansing the site for injection of insulin and inspect the site for evidence of infection or irritation, and giving an injection subcutaneously of prefilled insulin or heparin. So in the matrix, as Eve had mentioned, the home health aide could previously do some of this as long as they were working with a self-directing patient. However, again, with advanced home health aides, it doesn't matter whether the patient is self-directing.
And also, I think in the past, home health aides were never allowed to actually administer a subcutaneous injection for any type of diabetes medication. So, you know, from this perspective, this is a huge change to allow a certified home health aide with this additional training and certification to be able to assist somebody to remain in their home if all they need is some assistance with medications like their diabetes medication. And they don't have to be self-directing. It could be somebody who is not self-directing as a result of memory impairments or other conditions, and their legal representative is the one who is authorizing and consenting to these services being performed by an advanced home health aide.
Exactly. And we had mentioned the 2 injections that are specifically listed in the statute and regulations, but DOH could authorize other pre-filled medications. They have to consult with the state education department. It's unknown at this time whether other will be allowed, but there is the possibility of that.
And there's been some discussion, I think, about that as well, that with respect to other pre-filled types of medication, could an advanced home health aide be trained to provide that? We don't know yet, but it's certainly something that is being considered.
Right. And DOH has a website specifically on this topic, so you might want to get on there and occasionally review to see whether there's anything new on there. So providing skin care. The advanced tasks could include routine skincare, which are activities normally performed on a regular basis to maintain the skin's integrity. And it also includes performing personal care, including cutting of nails. Now, previously, this was only allowed under special circumstances, so this would be an expansion of the duties in the matrix. Providing skincare also includes special skincare, so activities performed as needed to protect a stable surface wound or prevent the development of bed sores or pressure ulcers. And also applying prescription or non-prescription topical medications to stable skin surfaces. And that's defined as a skin surface that may have a superficial wound, but is not open, inflamed, or infected. And so some medications that could be applied include antibiotics or corticosteroids. Now the matrix also, in addition to expanding the services that, or outlining what advanced tasks could be performed, they also took a look at what services a home health aide is currently providing. In some cases, they added additional tasks under the permissible home health aide category. So in this case, they expanded services for a home health aide to allow the home health aide to apply prescription and non-prescription topical medications, but only for a self-directing patient. Under the topic using medical equipment, supplies, and devices, this would include advanced tasks regarding assistance with prosthetics. So removing or putting in or putting on or operating prosthetics by a home health aide is generally allowable in the matrix, with the exception of artificial eyes. So this has now been a task that is permissible for an advanced home health aide. With respect to a TENS device, it includes setting up, preparing, and applying, removing the electrodes, adjusting the electrode controls, and observing, recording, and reporting. Advanced tasks could also include inserting, removing a straight catheter, cleansing the skin around the site, setting up a clean field for insertion of the catheter, and applying prescription or non-prescription medication around the insertion site.
So what's interesting about the matrix is, these are all things that are included within the draft matrix where so many stakeholders participated, but it's really not clear whether the state education department is in fact going to approve all of these types of services. So, I think we have to compare what's in the matrix with what's in the regulations right now, and we will need to have clarification. I think this is a slide in particular where we're not sure what is in fact going to be authorized with these programs, and there has to be some further clarification. But the matrix, I think, is there to give us certainly a guidance.
Right, and they note that the matrix was really to help inform the regulations, and now that the regulations are out, I think the next step that state agencies would have to do is to finalize the matrix, because like training programs will have to be developed, and some of the training programs will have to touch on what activities. Right, right. So we spoke about straight catheters. With respect to indwelling catheters, advanced tasks could include changing leg or bed drainage bags, but it would not include activities such as cleansing the skin around the insertion site, setting up the sterile field, applying prescription meds around the site, and inserting and removing the indwelling catheter. Advanced tasks include hot and cold applications, assembling the necessary supplies, and applying, immersing, or removing the equipment. It also includes administration of commercially prepared or soap solution enemas.
And I just want to mention that under the matrix, there was some advanced tasks that related to mechanical ventilators, such as, plugging in the equipment, charging batteries, assembling the equipment, checking settings, etc. But the state education department regulations explicitly prohibit activities involving use of a ventilator. So again, it's, that we need some more clarification on all these things.
Another topic area addressed in the draft matrix is on changing of dressings. This is another topic area where home health aides can perform certain services with respect to changing of dressings, but what's new here is really applying the prescription and non-prescription topical medication. Advanced tasks could also include cleaning the procedure for stable surface wounds. Stable surface wound is defined as a wound that is closed, crusted, or scabbed over, non-draining and non-infected, but not necessarily healed. In the area of performing simple measurements and tests, currently a home health aide is able to take a radial pulse, and an advanced task could now include taking blood pressure from sites other than the arm, including heart and the neck pulse or the carotid. Also, diabetic blood testing. An advanced aide could cleanse patient's stick site, obtain drop of blood from the stick site, place specimen on the testing material, and read and record test results. Under the topic area, caring for an ostomy, after the ostomy has achieved its normal function, advanced tasks could include irrigating a colostomy. It may only be performed by an advanced home health aide if the ostomy is mature and stable and the irrigation has been ongoing and a customary part of the patient's care. And again, the supervising nurse has to determine that all of these are met and then that the advanced home health aide is competent to perform the task. It includes assembly of the equipment, preparing the prescribed irrigation solution, and pouring the irrigation solution into the irrigation reservoir.
And again, this is the draft matrix.
Right. Anytime I say matrix, I mean the draft matrix.
Right, so all these, so some of these are much more involved than just what the statute says. So now back to what the statute actually says.
Right, and we talked about what can they do. Now we'll talk about what they cannot do. So advanced tasks shall not include converting or calculating the dose of any medication or determining a client's need for medications. Medication administration through enteral feeding tubes, and medication administration parenterally, except for certain routine medications and the injections that we've already discussed. Also prohibited tasks involving the use of intravenous or subcutaneous infusion devices on a client, tasks involving the use of mechanical ventilators, and that's where Eve was mentioning the disconnect between the regulations of the State Education Department and the draft matrix, which did outline some tasks that related to mechanical ventilators that could be performed. Also prohibited tasks involving sterile or aseptic technique, except for the administration of injections otherwise indicated as permissible.
So in the statute, it clearly states, as we talked about before, that a subcutaneous injection of diabetes medication or an intramuscular injection of a low-weight heparin is permissible, as well as the emergency administration of naloxone or epinephrine. Those are the things that are clearly accepted and permitted in the statute. The rest of it is any other type of injection would not be authorized unless they've changed that further.
And also prohibited is tasks involving professional nursing judgment, observation, monitoring, or assessment of a client, and tasks that are outside the scope of practice of an LPN. Now, training programs, as Eve mentioned, the Advanced Home Health Aide has to undergo training through a training program approved by either the State Education Department or the Department of Health, and has to pass a competency exam in order to deliver advanced home health aid services. So to be considered for approval, the training program must be currently authorized by SED, the State Education Department, or DOH to offer a certified home health aid training program. Approval to the training program is granted for up to 3 years, and that is to be coterminous with the approval of the Certified Home Health Aide Training Program. Before accepting a candidate into the program, the training program has to verify that each candidate has earned a high school diploma or high school equivalency diploma, is currently listed on the Home Care Services Worker Registry as a certified home health aide, and has completed at least 1 year of experience providing home health care in accordance with the requirements of the reg. They either have to provide personal care or home care services, or a combination of the same. So the training program is required to notify the Department of Health when a student has successfully completed a training program and passed the exam, and then it also issues a certificate to the student. The regulations outline what the curriculum has to include. It has to include at least 80 hours in instructional classroom and skills laboratory training, and at least 45 hours of supervised practical training.
And the supervised practical training cannot be offered until the participant completes at least 3 hours of the instructional classroom training.
Topics that must be covered in the training include assignment of advanced tasks, working with supervising RNs, infection control, injections and injection safety, documentation relating to advanced tasks, medication administration, client communication, and preparing for and taking the department-approved competency exam. Other requirements: the supervised practical training must be provided in a home care setting in which the student performs advanced tasks for a client while under the personal supervision of an RN, and the RN has to have a minimum of 2 years of nursing experience, at least 1 year of which must be in home health care. The student also has to complete competency evaluations as determined by the RN after the RN has personally observed the student perform the tasks described. And other tasks may be evaluated through a written exam or observation. So next steps. Before advanced home health aid services can be provided, the training programs have to be established and approved by either the State Education Department or DOH. Certified home health aides have to undergo training and pass the exams, and agencies have to develop the necessary policies and procedures. And as Eve mentioned, that includes policies on assignment and performance of advanced tasks. The agencies have to establish the process to document the limitation or revocation of assignment of advanced tasks, and the drug diversion policy.
So there's a lot that remains to be done before the advanced home health care services can actually be offered, but we are certainly well on our way. At this point, I just want to open the floor to questions and tell everyone that if you pose a question, it is anonymous. No one else can see your question except us. And also for those who may have joined us a little bit later, we will be emailing a copy of this presentation to all of the registrants tomorrow, and the webinar will be posted on our YouTube site as well. So let me open the floor for questions. Okay, I see we have one question. What is a home care agency's responsibilities when a patient changes their mind and doesn't want services from the aide after the service is already started? In that situation, the aide is not permitted to perform advanced tasks once the patient refuses care, and a nurse would have to provide those advanced tasks instead.
Okay. Can a licensed practical nurse perform the required supervision of an advanced home health aide? No, the statute and regulations make clear that it has to be a registered nurse, and specifically one that's been authorized by the agency to be the supervising registered nurse.
There's a question posed for a hospice program. What does it mean for a patient to be in stable condition? Stable health is defined as the physiologic health is not in flux, but in someone in hospice that might be something that could be in flux, but more importantly, the other half of the definition was that there was no anticipation that there'd be a change in health that would require immediate medical attention. So for a patient who might be in hospice, if that's the plan, that as that patient's condition may deteriorate, there may be insufficient stable health to be a part of, to participate in this program. Any other questions? Let's see. I think that's it. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and we appreciate you being here. Bye-bye.